My name is Zora. I have been staying with my grandparents since I was 3 years old. My grandparents owned a fashion shop. They have always had that fashion shop ever since I was born. My parents always went on business trips, leaving me alone. I decided to move in with my grandparents because they loved me more than my parents. Maybe it was because I looked nothing like them. I resembled my grandfather. I loved working in my grandparents' shop. They used to design and make clothes. It wasn't a big shop, but it was better than nothing, since it was always able to pay our bills. I fell in love with fashion, and I wanted to pursue it as a career. I wanted to be like my grandfather. He was the best designer I had known, even though he wasn't recognizable. I believed that one day he would be recognized by the whole world. He didn't seem to care about that. He said that he was happy to be designing clothes for our hometown people, bringing out the best in them through fashion. I told my parents about my career, and of course, they didn't want anything about it. They said that fashion is for dummies, not for someone bright like me. I wanted to pursue fashion, but they said if I dare apply, they won't pay my tuition fee. I didn't apply after they had threatened me. One day, my grandmother collapsed and passed away. She couldn't make it to the hospital. It was a painful moment for both me and my grandfather. My parents were not grieving, but rather celebrating. I wondered what the reason was. A funeral was held and my grandmother was laid to rest. My grandfather refused to go to the shop to continue with his business. He was grieving in his way by pushing away everybody. I knew that it was a hard time for him, and I gave him space. One day, my parents came to my grandfather's house. I thought that they came to comfort my grandfather, but they came to get the inheritance. My grandfather was grieving after losing his lover, and my parents wanted an inheritance. Are they insane or just cruel? My grandmother had left some money in the safe that was meant for my college tuition fee. I wasn't aware of it. My parents said that if my grandfather won't give them the money, they would take him to an elderly home and take me to an orphanage. My grandfather wanted to decline, but I didn't want to be separated from him. We gave them the money. They said that they wanted to start a business of their own, as they were tired of being employees. Because my grandfather had closed his shop, we didn't have money to pay the bills, and they kicked us out of the house. Left with no other choice, we had to go back to my parents' house. My parents started buying expensive stuff, and I wondered where they got the money from. They bought new cars and expensive clothes from the best designers in the world. My grandfather had recovered and started smiling. I told him to attend a certain club to help him heal, and he decided to do so. My parents told me that they wanted to send me to college to pursue business. I knew that was a way of trying to separate me from my grandfather, because the college they told me was in another state. I told them that I won't go there, and they gave me an ultimatum to choose to go or be disowned. I chose the latter because I would do anything to protect my grandfather, as he was the only family I had left. They kicked us out of the house. We went to my grandfather's shop and cleaned it. That was the place we were going to stay. I told my grandfather that we should open the shop again to provide us with income. We opened the shop and started making clothes. We didn't have a lot of materials and no money to buy them, hence we sold a few clothes. I was helping my grandfather in the shop because I had learned some skills. One day, it rained heavily and our house leaked. We had to stay in a corner because the whole house flooded. Our clothes were all soaked in water. The following day, we cleaned the whole house. The floor was made of timber and it had been destroyed. I saw a cracked floor and went to that place to try to repair it. I removed the timber and I realized that there was paper. It looked old, and out of curiosity, I took it. I read and was shocked. I called my grandfather and we started digging that place. We dug for 2 hours and found nothing. We were almost giving up, but then I saw something that was glittering. I showed my grandfather, and he told me that it looked like a diamond. I knew nothing about minerals because I had never seen one in my entire life. I continued digging and found 2 other rocks like the one before. My grandfather suggested that we go to an old friend of his to ask if it was a real diamond or not. We went to his place and found him. After examining it, he told us that it was a real one and the most valuable. To be able to sell it, we needed authorization from the state. Formalities started and we were able to sell it. We got 10 million and we even appeared in a newspaper. It was the most amazing day ever. Later that night, my parents were arrested. The police said that they had been dealing with illegal drugs, importing them to our country. That was the reason why they had so much money in a short period. They requested us to bail them, but we refused. We wanted them to pay for what they had done. We expanded my grandfather's shop until it became among the best designer shop in the country. We lived happily ever after with my grandfather.